Greetings, everyone. This is Rock and Roll Spot Connection with the Wiki Comic Book. Alright, we already covered a handful of this week's books already. Now it's time to move on to, well, even more. Starting things off, we've got Avengers Forever number 6. Where we left off, basically, we kind of had the first major arc where Ghost Rider, Robbie Reyes, first encountered as a group of Avengers from another Earth that had been taken over by the whose Age of Heroes had been prevented from happening by the multiversal Masters of Evil, and so now it's kind of just a origin story, some origin stuff to kind of build everyone to more the team growing. We've had one for Doom Supreme. So yeah. Anyway, so in this one we meet Vibranium Man. So Vibranium Man is clearly a it's T'Challa, Black Panther. This particular T'Challa's origin, however, it borrows from someone from the Distinguished Competition, as King Killmonger was slaughtering his way through Wakanda on his Earth. T'Chaka and his mother, T'Chaka and his wife, put baby T'Challa in a vibranium rocket and shot it off into space. Sounds a little familiar. I can't quite place where I've heard that one before, but it sounds familiar. Maybe not the vibranium rocket part, but putting a baby in a rocket and sending it off into space. That part sounds familiar. Anyway, he ended up on Chandalar. And turned the vibranium from from his ship into a suit. He seems to have much more of a Spider-Man motif going on. Liquid seems to be liquid vibranium webbing. Got a lot of the same poses and quips and yeah. But he's attacked by some of the Zarazi. Then King Killmonger shows up and just, yeah. Years later, with further improving his suit, Vibranium Man goes after a Wakandan vessel. It's adrift, but perhaps there's air aboard, so, actually, maybe a Shi'ar vessel, but he finds the dying Zarazi aboard. But then King Killmonger's ship shows up, and Vibranium Man goes after King, but the destroyer armor he's wearing, the blast from it is not enough to break through the vibranium armor, but some of the other add-ons he's put on in order, the Blood Axe can get through those. And Vibranium is apparently thrown into a sun, along with what appears to be the Blood Axe. A few days later, Robbie, Deathlock, and the Invincible Ant-Man pop into this reality, having chased a signal, and they find a cocoon of solid vibranium within the star, pull it out, and as it's leaving the star, T'Challa breaks out of the cocoon. Well, he's no longer Vibranium Man. He now calls himself the Star Panther. Seems like has since gone through a similar ordeal, a similar change as Peter Quill on Earth 616, but more real about it. And that is where the issue ends. And let's see. Looks like the next one's gonna be another in-between story focusing on Steve Rogers variants. Should be interesting. I'm really digging Avengers Forever. It's my biggest complaint generally with multiverse stuff is that it's usually just a mini series or a one shot, and you get in, you know, the miniseries, the one shot has some really neat idea. Oh, this is so cool, but then you realize it's just, you know, you're likely to never see that version of that character ever again. So unless it's popular enough, and so. But this, I'm really liking this, especially with the fact that it's with it being an ongoing. We're getting, you know, it reminds me in some ways of Exiles for the Avengers. So, which is a compliment. It's definitely praised. Exiles was a great book with an even better idea behind it. So, anyway, moving on to our next book, we've got Black Panther #6. Where we left off, Akili, the commander of the Zerazi, basically staged a military, basically did a coup after T'Challa turned himself over to turned himself over to state custody. T'Challa escaped into the savannah, and then Zerazi followed, but he didn't have his suit, so Zerazi tended to kind of, you know, figured without the suit he's nothing. That's not entirely true, so. But T'Challa deals with the Zerazi, but they inform him that the ones he's found inform him that they were a distraction, and a bunch of them come after T'Challa, all shouting, "The king must die! Kill T'Challa! Death to the king! Death to T'Challa!" So forth. But Black Panther does what he does, you know, just takes the fight to him. At Zerazi headquarters, the Prime Minister and Akili are discussing the whole thing, what's going on. Not entirely favorably, I'd say. Shuri and Amole slip into a off-the-grid black site lab of Shuri's, and it turns out that Shuri slipped a small tracking device into T'Challa via her cooking. It's designed to activate if in the event of a communications blackout. But T'Challa's still dealing with the Zerazi and dealing quite well with them. But no, they eventually do start to begin to subdue him via through strings of numbers. But Black Panther say, you know, but T'Challa says that he's their king, and if the Zerazi trying to kill him, the heavens will open and the gods will strike them down. The member of the Zerazi kind of, you know, was like, yeah, I don't believe in folktales. What I do believe is the king must die. But before he finish that, he's suddenly struck by lightning, and T'Challa's surprised, saying he was only bluffing. And T'Challa's savior arrives in the form of Storm, who takes out the Zerazi, and then turns her attention to T'Challa because she's not exactly happy about the fact that Gentle was a brainwashed sleeper agent for T'Challa. But Akili basically if Storm just saved him, then looks like T'Challa sold out to the mutants, so maybe looks like we're at war with Krakoa. The events of Marauders #15 are addressed. The destruction of the gate to Krakoa from Wakanda, as well as the theft of Skybreaker, as is the annulment of their marriage. Then he tries to justify everything what he's done, and a lot of his actions, and but then Amole and Shuri show up. Storm was the one they called. They called the Dora Milaje. And that is where the issue ends. I'm really digging this this run on Black Panther so far. It's a lot of fun. I'm liking it. Moving on to our next book, Captain Marvel number 38. Where we left off, after trying to show her new binary form, the ways and customs of Earth, Carol Danvers seemingly vanished. And so, Binary is learning the ways of Earth from Carol's friends, Spider-Woman, her sister L'Oreal, and various others. But she rescues a cat from a tree. She's very literal, which is understandable. She's not understanding, sayings like "bigger fish to fry" But Jess and Binary fight what appears to be a kaiju in the zoo. There's more. There's additional. There's a splash page of just single panels of her saving the day. We get her punching a robot, saving a construction worker from being crushed by a falling girder, scratching a bodega cat's chin, fighting AIM, fighting some creature with the Avengers, eating hot dogs, fighting Tiger Shark, defeating MODOK, saving people from a fire, and coming out of a sewer and stating that she does not like sewers. And she learns a bit about the concept of profanity because Jessica Drew is not happy that Hazmat has just taught Binary the word crap. We get some various people on, man on the street interviews. I think one of them is supposed to be with Miles. The way the last interview goes, a young black kid saying, he's pretty sure that it's just Carol Danvers. He even has an old superhero card with her as Binary. I think I have one, at least one as well. But Binary sees this interview and says that that's not the truth. That she's not Carol, she's Binary. But as she looks into a mirror, and it seems as though her reflection turns into Carol Danvers. Elsewhere, Carol Danvers is living her own life on some alien world. One of the locals comes to see her. A village has been attacked by a creature in the mountains 3 days previously, so Carol grabs her big-ass sword, goes to fight the creature, kills it. She says it's kind of, slaying a dragon, it's a rite of passage in stories. Like after you do it, it feels like you can do anything, help anyone, save anyone, be anyone. Then something odd happens, and she's mystically bound to a chair, and also present are the Enchantress, Scarlet Witch, and Agatha Harkness. That's right, it was Agatha all along. Well, maybe not all along, but yeah. And that is where the issue ends. Well, this just got interesting, that's for damn sure. I'm enjoying. I've been enjoying Kelly Thompson's run on Captain Marvel since issue 1, so it's fun, and yeah, I'm digging it. Current run with this current arc with the Binary form, finding her place in the world, and that's also really cool. I get the feeling that upon returning to Earth, there's going to be something that will happen that causes Binary and the energy form and Carol to unify as one being again. But I guess we'll see what happens. Moving on to our next book, we've got Alien number 12. Where we left off, the surviving spinners, were trying to hopefully find a way off the planet. But it turns out that they had been betrayed by two androids within their group, who were planted within the group by Weyland-Yutani. And the survivors that were then sent into what was effectively a xenomorph hive. Facehuggers come after most of the survivors, except for oh god, what was her name? Except for I want to say it's Annie, but I could be wrong. Jane, yeah. Except for Jane, who is dealing with a debilitating illness. And that's how some of the tracks is the idea that xenomorphs facehuggers can kind of, sense. It's like, oh, this is not a suitable host, and move on to one that is. But Jane and the rest of the spinners do what they can to try to escape, killing facehuggers and discovering that the xenomorphs have acid blood. At the colony, a Colonial Marines dropship arrives, and squad gets off with one of the androids explaining what's going on. The squad leader isn't really digging the android's, as he called it, Pinocchio routine. Or Pinocchio trying to be a real boy routine. Saying it's cute and all, but he's done with it. But they discover that, it looks like maybe some of the creatures have gotten... Looks like, the xenomorphs and hosts aren't as contained as they thought. And so, the Marines have to deal with some of the xenomorphs of varying sizes, facehuggers, full-grown drones and whatnot. Gregory, the android, is attacked by spinners, however, and they insist he takes him to the dropship. One of the spinners used to work for Weyland-Yutani and did some flight training, and so can potentially fly the dropship out of there. Gregory is then blasted in smithereens by Jane, and the spinners take off in the dropship while the Marines run out of the building, want to be saved, and are left behind. The remains of Ambrose states that the planet is still a paradise. It's just it was not a paradise meant for them. It's paradise for mothers, true children. They have their Garden of Adeline, their Mines of Jonah, their endless bounty. In Earth Orbital Station Reynolds, it's a Weyland-Yutani station. An urgent readout from a military personnel carrier on the Eurydice mission. It's when the UA assets have taken control of the ship. It's on its way back to Earth. They're not clear who the readout's coming from, but it's explained one of the assets has a rare disease that makes her unfit for implantation, or would not engage. And, well, his superior decides that's definitely something worth looking into. And that is where the issue ends. So we're a year into the Alien series, and I'm liking it overall. The art could be better. I'll be honest, but I'm liking the book. Um, my biggest on the one hand, I appreciate the idea that they're kind of doing the same thing Dark Horse was doing with the Alien franchise comic wise, which is just miniseries, 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 but they're doing it as an ongoing. And my biggest complaint is not so much the art, so much as the fact that it seems like the stories aren't connect, but it aren't. There's no connective tissue between each arc, aside from the xenomorph. There's nothing to From what I can tell, no one from the first arc has shown up in the second arc. So, yeah. But I guess we'll see how things continue. Moving on to our next book, though, we've got Star Wars Bounty Hunters number 23. Where we left off, Dengar was assassinating members of the underworld on behalf of Crimson Dawn, and Tonga, her team managed to take Makora prisoner. So it begins with a flashback, and apparently they are keeping the Disney continuity is keeping the whole. Dengar was injured in a swoop race against Han Solo. Bit of backstory. So that's cool. So we get all that, but it turns out Dengar has quite the temper, and he's got a problem with being disrespected. And after he loses the race, a grand enforcer comes up to him saying that one of the crime bosses isn't going to be happy to see see what Dengar did to the swoop, and so he beats the grand to death with the handlebar he's still holding from the swoop. In the present, on Milvain, the wealthy district, Dengar has went to speak with the leader of the Mourner's Whale, but some of the forces of the leader of the Mourner's Whale leader, they're dealing with Dengar, making sure he doesn't have weapons and threatening him, and yeah. So they're meeting at a fancy restaurant. Dengar gets some food and wine, while the leader of the Mourner's Whale asks where his granddaughter is. Back on the Edgehawk, Tonga and Losha are dealing with Makora, but it's just, ask questions when Makora doesn't answer, punch her. That's Makora's kind of just saying, yeah, that's all you got. I have no problem keeping my mouth shut. There's a threat made of cutting off Makora's fingers, and she says that, well, she believes the Shanoshan might do that. Bosk. Tonga and Losha, not so much. But turns out that Dengar is meeting with the leader of the Mourner's Whale is a setup engineered by Crimson Dawn. As Dengar explains, the Crimson Dawn is got agents everywhere. The Empire, the political centers, the other syndicates. He's brought a special he's heard a lot about. Special reveals to be none other than a pair of blasters. And he deals with more of the Mourner's Whale people while the people at the restaurant leave. Dengar makes his escape from the restaurant and is picked up by Manaru, his lover. While Tonga and Losha contact a bounty broker by the name of Sifak, who was previously working with Dengar, and Sifak sends them in the way of Dengar and on Milvain. Tonga asks Bosk if he trusts Dengar, and Dengar says that he did see Dengar with Valance on the during War of the Bounty Hunters, uh, charging towards the Vermilion, so that checks out. But Bosk doesn't trust him, and that is where the issue ends. Things are definitely getting interesting in Bounty Hunters. That's for damn sure. And I keep saying this is one of my favorite time points within the Star Wars history is the period between Empire and Jedi. And so yeah, it's interesting to see what else is going on while the Rebels are basically marshaling their forces before the Battle of Endor. Moving on to our last one for the moment, we've got Magic the Gathering number 15. And let's just take another look at that cover featuring Sahili. That is so cool. I love these Planeswalker covers. So where we left off, Ral, Vraska, and Kaya had been taken prisoner on Ravnica. Other Planeswalkers were finding themselves unable to even Planeswalk to Ravnica. And Planeswalkers Garruk, Chandra, and what was Nico are going after someone who Tybalt and Gabrielle Kane, who appear to be working for whoever it is that has blocked off Ravnica. So we start off on Ravnica 7 months previously, when the Planeswalker guild masters were apprehended. Fighting off they have to deal with some of the citizenry. When the Boros Legion arrives, there was an emergency edict of the Guild Pact, stating Planeswalkers were under arrest. Banning Planeswalkers on the plane. On Eldraine, Nico, Garruk, and Chandra had gone to Eldraine to find the cauldron. The cauldron that is an artifact from the Throne of Eldraine set, but it can bring back the dead, or at least the spirits of the dead. It restored Garruk to life as well. But out of it came Jace Beleren, and Jace explains that he died on Amonkhet as he planned, but a part of him held on. Ghost. But he thinks it had something to do with the death magic of Amonkhet and Liliana's necromancy when she was linked into the circuit. But he was weak before the cauldron strengthened his ghostly form. Insubstantial, untouchable, unable to communicate with any living soul. He could no longer touch the minds of the living, could no longer cast illusions. When he tried, they could only be seen in mirrors. Why, he doesn't know, but that's probably why perhaps it's because when people look into mirrors, they're actively looking for something. Which is also why Jake was following Nico, because they surrounded themselves in mirrors. But Jace had important tidings that the living needed to know from a friend that he called out to. Jace's power had changed in the same way that he had changed. He's not a telepath or a mind mage anymore, not precisely. He calls out and said to those untethered from the minds untethered from the flesh. He's a ghost speaker, and the only dead, and the dead are his companions now. He hears their thoughts everywhere. And there was only one ghost he knew on Ravnica. But we see more, as Jace explains more, we see the arrest of Kaya, Ral, and Vraska. And it seems that during their arrest, Vraska petrified Aurelia, the war leader of the Boros. When Niv Mizzet showed up, who's shown to be the mastermind of the whole thing. When it's explained to our trio of planeswalkers on Eldraine, Chandra is shocked that it was Niv Mizzet behind all this. But Jason was yes, but also no. And Jace goes on to explain that Niv Mizzet was the ghost from Ravnica he spoke to, and he brings the ghost of Niv Mizzet there. But Chandra wants a clear explanation of how it is that Niv Mizzet is responsible, but not. That's because the metal form which houses Niv Mizzet Reborn is not being controlled by Niv Mizzet's soul, by Niv Mizzet, but rather Tezzeret. Falsifier Man, chair of the Guildpact de facto ruler of Ravnica and Planeswalker. And when she's asked by Garuk and Nico who Tezzeret is, she explains that while Tybalt may be the worst person he's ever met, well, she was wrong with that. Tezzeret is worse. Tybalt hurts and kills anyone within arm's reach. He's horrible, but he's small scale. Tezzeret wants to put the entire multiverse under his metal thumb. And Chandra says that if anyone could do it, it would be him. But it's further explained that the Immortal Sun, which has been unused in Ravnica since the War of the Spark, has been activated. But Tezzeret has altered it to prevent planeswalking to Ravnica as well. So he controls all planeswalking in and out of Ravnica. But Nico points out that people do planeswalk to and from Ravnica. Tezzeret's got minions. Garuk realizes that's why he couldn't track Tybalt. Ravnica being close to them would scatter his trail. But Chandra points out that Tezzeret's borders are porous. Tybalt and Dabriel Kane could cross them at his bidding. They'd have to make one of them talk. And so Chandra suggests that maybe they should go after Dabriel with Jace. And Jace reminds her that he can get them information from if there are ghosts to be found. But she states that there will be plenty of ghosts where they're going. Innistrad, at Greystone Manor, the current home of Dabriel Kane. And that is where the issue ends. I'm also really enjoying this, and I gave some quick praise to Jed McKay's work earlier. I don't remember which. It was one of the Strange. Yeah, I'm really enjoying Jed McKay's work overall recently, and his magic series feels so different from tonally, I guess, from Moon Knight, Strange, and Black Cat. And Black Cat. those three have their own kind of distinct tone that they all kind of share, but this has its own tone. And yeah, okay, I kind of like the way he's writing Chandra, which it's kind of fun with her just be like, you know, bit of a bit of a flame-headed smartass. But anyway, that's going to do it for now. As always, feel free to like, share, and subscribe. If you read any of these books this week, let me know what you thought. Links to my Facebook, Twitter, Patreon, and PayPal can be found in the description box down below. This is Rock and Roll Spock signing off, saying live long and rock hard.